This week, a lot of news, including the winners of the Fantasy Flight Tournament.
Then, strategy guides for board games. Is this a good idea or does it not make any sense? We'll give you our thoughts in this topic of the week. My name is Jonathan Estes.
I'm Will Keeler, and this is the Roll for Crit podcast. You may have heard of AEG's popular game Smash Up, which just released its Monster expansion for Halloween over the last month. They've just announced their new expansion, which is due to come out this coming March. The game is called Pretty Smash Up. You heard it right. This will include 4 new groups: fairies, cats, mythical horses, and princesses.
I mean, who's not excited about those?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think one thing, it's interesting because it's completely different than from what we've seen. Mm-hmm. There's going to be, I'm sure the cat one's going to be pretty much all memes. From what we know, the cats are pretty much about being so cute they take over other creatures. They convince them, I guess. The fairies sort of just mess around and steal everyone's stuff. I think they're going to be very similar to tricksters in a way. Princesses command people to do things.
I like that.
And horses are all about being together and the power of friendship.
I do like it, even though it's sort of it's girly in a very stereotypical, over the top kind of way. But I do think that Smash Up is a game that is very accessible to families and kids and lots of different audiences, whereas a lot of games are like very like sci-fi and dwarves and like dudes in their basements are playing this. So I think it's a good move on their part to put something out like this.
Well, to be fair, Jonathan, you would say you are a huge fan of cats.
I do like a cat now and then, and a unicorn. Don't even get me started. My unicorn.
But I mean, the few cards I saw, like the one fairy card example in particular, was when you play it. This is like the basic smallest group of the fairy, I'm pretty sure. You actually take an action attached to another creature and put it on that fairy, which sounds amazing, especially if someone was playing with the cyborg apes, which are all about attaching them. Like, you can just mess around with everyone.
I'm sure we'll discover all the combos that are broken in one way or one direction or the other.
Right. So we'll see what happens next March if it doesn't get delayed, which is always a possibility.
They've been pretty good with their
the first expansion that were up, afterwards they've been getting it, and especially what I'm excited about is because I have all of them, is because the Smash Up box I'm putting the case.
Yeah,
that's one thing. Smash Up has an amazing. The Big Geeky box started to go off track a little bit, but
they released the Big Geeky box, which holds every Smash Up expansion.
Right,
and we'll have room for this
and more. And they come with actually dividers. It looks amazing. It really is, I think, a standard for what other games with lots of expansions should do.
We've been gushing over it since it came in.
But enough about that.
Enough about that. In other news, I'm sure everybody out there has heard of the game Pandemic. The game's creator, Matt Leacock of whatever the name of his game company is, with Z-Man and etc., have come out with a new idea that they're encouraging everybody to do. They're calling it Pandemic Parties. It's very simple. Basically, they're trying to raise money for Doctors Without Borders. If you don't know what Pandemic is, it's all about a virus. Virus is taking over the world, and you're trying to stop it, to cure the disease. And they're taking that theme to heart, trying to raise money to help fight Ebola in particular, and for whatever else Doctors Without Borders might need. The idea is that you organize a party, you play Pandemic or any other game that you want, and encourage your friends to donate some money. They're trying to reach a goal of $100,000 by January 31st of 2015. I don't know if they're going to make it. I'm not sure how far along they are, but it's for a good cause and it's a nice idea.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's a really popular game right off the bat, so it's one that a lot of people probably enjoy. So it's pretty easy to reel people in for that.
And very well known.
Yeah. And I mean, we played it recently, and even then, with all that's been happening, sort of like, this is sort of like it actually makes a lot of sense, especially because the disease that happens to trouble us the most is where Ebola happens to be wreaking the most havoc currently.
Well, I think it's very smart because I could easily see people taking offense at this time, as I think we've talked about, at the idea of Pandemic. So I think it's a good move for them to spin it in a positive way before anyone has a chance to be mad about it.
Well, I think not exactly, because the example we say a lot is like Whitechapel. I hear that people like
Letters from Whitechapel.
Letters from Whitechapel, in which someone actually is the murderer. But in this, no one. Well, I guess there is the one when someone actually is the bioterrorist. But overall, Pandemic's really about stopping the disease.
Right.
So it actually is still being the hero.
That's true. But some people.
I guess
don't
also
care.
there's Contagion also, which
Pandemic
is being the disease.
right.
But I think it's a great idea. It's for a very popular game and probably a good way to get people to start playing it because it really is a good game to play.
Yeah, so if you want to start your own pandemic party, the link is below, and they have tips for organizing and setting up donations and all that kind of stuff.
All right, on to a very big thing in news. Over the last 2 weeks, there were the Fantasy Flight tournaments. During them, they had for multiple games. We're going to list some of the big ones and talk about who won them and why. We're going to start off with Game of Thrones. Now, as we said earlier, Game of Thrones is going to get a whole new core set, so this is sort of like one of its last big hurrah almost.
Last hurrah, yeah.
Unlike some of the other ones, Game of Thrones actually has different play styles. So they have a tournament called Melee, which is when you have multiple people playing, Joust, which is head-on, and then they had an overall out of, I think, between the two tournaments who won. For the multi, it was Dan Sedfeld. I'm going to apologize once again for the names.
I'm just going to get you a shirt that says, I apologize for the names.
Yep. I deserve that. For the jousting, it was actually Sam Bratz. But overall, it was actually neither of them. It was Alexander Hines. So
congrats to them.
all of them.
Who's next?
Next up is the X-Wing Minis. There were quite a bit, 128 players. So you imagine that many people, all, and this isn't just cards, everyone carrying the boxes of their ships. So that's got to be impressive.
That's true. They just got sacks over their shoulders.
The winner of that was Paul Heaver. Now he is actually the world champion from last year. So he's now the 2-year world championship. He won this year with the Millennium Falcon, powered by, of course, Han Solo, along with 3 Z95 headhunters.
Huh.
So I haven't really played the game that much, so I don't know.
But now we know what ships to use.
Yep.
Right there.
All right, and of course, Netrunner. Once again, this is another really big LCG tournament. The winner was Dan Dargino. Dargino.
It was Dan D.
Yeah. In Netrunner, they have 2 decks, because depending whether you're the runner or the company. His company deck was Gene K Replicating Perfection, and he went with the runner Andromeda. So, congratulations. From what I hear, a lot of decks they expected to get in there, or at least the company-wise, didn't even make it to like the near end, which was interesting.
So do you know? You might have no idea. I have no idea. In the Netrunner tournaments, like, do people typically play as one side only, or do they switch?
They have to switch almost. That's why they carry 2 decks.
2 different decks. Yeah.
I think that because that's how you decide. I think who wins.
You got to be versatile, I guess.
Yeah, you can't have one good deck and then your runner is terrible.
Oh yeah.
Because remember, we've both played Netrunner. You know, it's 2 completely different games.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, many of these other games, like X-Wing Minis, I mean, the Game of Thrones, really it doesn't matter which side you're on.
Yeah, most games.
Like, I mean, sure, you have different units.
Well, not most games.
You have different units and stuff, but your rules are the same. You're still move this money space to this. The corporation acts completely differently than the runner. So.
Right.
But, of course, there's some other ones, but we don't have all the time in the world, so we'll just list them.
Full list on our site.
Of course. But congrats to Mick Saprisia for the Star Wars LCG, to Francois Fresson for the Warhammer Disc Wars, and congrats to Jeremy Zwin for winning not only the Call of Cthulhu, but also Warhammer 40,000 Conquest.
Ah.
He must have brought a lot of stuff with him.
That dude just camps out there. He's
in it to win it.
Yeah.
So,
congratulations to all of you. No, it means a lot hearing it from us. God bless you. Well, that's the big news. One final thing that's sort of big, but off in the other realm, not directly related to board games, more of a fun thing. A couple weeks ago, we actually reviewed the Ouija movie, much to our chagrin, and it has just been recently heard there are talks that Hasbro is looking to buy and or merge with DreamWorks Studios. So essentially, Hasbro, they've seen a lot of success with especially the Transformers movies.
Financial success.
Very
Very important.
And even Ouija, did well for them, I think. And of course, they've been trying. We've talked about to get the rights to Dungeons and Dragons again to make movies. So clearly, they're interested in making more of their properties into films, and that's what they're looking at with DreamWorks. So it will be interesting. Nothing is confirmed yet, but potentially, if this goes through, we could start seeing a lot of DreamWorks animated as opposed to Battleship. We'll see more maybe family-oriented movies based on Candyland and what have you. Thoughts? How stupid will this be?
Well, you see, I'm split because one half of me is, maybe this is a professional. I mean, sure, DreamWorks has its mixture of bad and good movies.
Well, we should say also DreamWorks, even though I'm thinking of that way because it's Hasbro, they do make non-animated films, of course.
Let's list some before anything. Let's list some of DreamWorks' big movies.
Let's see. Besides animated movies,
well, either. Just
I mean, you got your Shrek.
Yeah, like the movies they're most known.
Your Kung Fu Panda. I mean, these days that's really what they do. Madagascar, all that kind of thing.
Do you know some of the non-animated ones?
I really should, okay. but I
mean,
my head.
like
Neil, you got anything?
Nope.
No, he doesn't know.
I mean, of course they've been made bad movies, but I feel like there's been a lot of good ones they've made. So I'm thinking maybe some of their movies will get a little bit more shine to them. They'll go over the script a bit more and.
I'm trying to think, because isn't it like Spielberg started DreamWorks? Isn't they do all that? Like there's a ton of movies. I'm just blanking on them.
But
go ahead.
Like I'm part of me is just hoping okay, maybe this means they'll put more work into it. It won't just be,
honestly,
let's get it off the shelf to make money.
The lowest effort B-team animated DreamWorks movie, still probably better than any Hasbro board game movie that's come out.
However, Transformers. That has hurt me so many times. I hope maybe they do a whole remake of them or something. I don't know, like reboot, like an animated version. We'll see.
Maybe. Probably not.
I mean, it also depends with their TV show. Because remember, they also have a Transformers TV show. Maybe they'll do a DreamWorks TV show. I think isn't there a Kung Fu Panda show?
Yeah, and there was also Turbo Snail or whatever had a show. Yeah.
I mean, maybe they'll plan to do shows with them.
The Madagascar show.
I know I didn't watch the newest one because I think it either just started coming out. I did watch their last one of Transformers, which I thought was all right. So we'll see what
we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
It should be.
And remember, they have plenty of other properties we don't even know. So we'll see.
Yeah. Board games and toys alike.
Overall, I have high hopes, but I can see bad things happening. But
no hopes over here.
No hopes?
No hopes radio. I think that's all our news. We're going to have to get into our Kickstarter Pickstarter right now.
All right. So as you know, I often pick Kickstarters that often have dinosaurs and dragons. Once again, no exception. My Kickstarter Pickstarter is In a World of Dinosaurs. It is a game for 2 to 4 players by Subtle Chuckle. In this game, you actually... Yep, that's it. Congratulations. In this game, there's actually 2 boards. One board, you control your paleontologists. The other board, you actually control your dinosaurs. So it's sort of the past prehistoric version and the modern version. The way the game works is you're going to be moving around your dinosaurs and you're going to play event cards, maybe local cards that say, your dinosaur fell into a tar pit, it died, or all blue spaces died because of a surprise ice age, or meteor, all dinosaurs die. When they die, they become fossils, and you move their piece onto where the modern day board is. Then you got race there with your paleontologist. First one get there gets a dinosaur piece. Now there's a bunch of different dinosaurs. Currently, I believe it's 8 species in total. And what happens is you'll try to, of course, assemble the full dinosaur, like the full Stegosaurus. Put it in your museum, which attracts visitors. Of course, you may, you're the paleontologist. Maybe you want to make a Pteranodactyl, for example. And that can give you points.
Wait. How can you just make up a dinosaur?
Because the way it works is you don't get the full dinosaur. You get I got the head of the Triceratops or the head of the T-Rex.
Yeah.
So you may not be getting all the T-Rex pieces. You're like, you know what? I'm going to put the Pteranodactyl into your museum.
So you're a really bad paleontologist.
Well, you're trying to score points. Remember, this is a board game.
Okay.
But it looks really cool. I love the idea of the design. I mean, plus mixing and matching dinosaurs. Actually, sometimes it happens an accident. If you don't know the story, Brontosaurus doesn't actually exist. That was actually two different dinosaurs. It took a while till they realized it wasn't, and hence why we have Apatosaurus.
And it'll be even longer before we realize we're wrong about that, too.
Well, there actually was recently one about Triceratops, which people said they didn't, and apparently now it's reversed. Yeah, it's hard when you with fossils. It's really interesting.
No, I really like the idea of working with the past and the present.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
cool.
we actually talked a lot about, I know with video games, how we want something like that.
Well, like,
so seeing a board game.
Day of the Tentacle, old point and click game, you had 3 different time periods. You're tossing items together. Yeah, so that's cool.
So like seeing that in a board game, we're like, and it works perfectly, the idea, because what happens in that world, then it makes sense why it goes into the other world.
It's neat.
And it comes with 6 custom dice, which are really cool, that show which dinosaur you have. It has a living side and then a skeleton side. And the game itself is $50 for the entire collection. However, you can pay $100 for a deluxe edition. This has like faux leather with gold writing on it. It looks like it's on a bookshelf. Really nice black border pieces.
Fancy.
Artwork looks really nice. It's very also family friendly. It's ages 10 and up, so good way to maybe if you have kids who are interested in dinosaurs to be like, okay, let's learn how they died, and then also digging them up.
And if you have a 9-year-old, by the time the game is released, they'll probably be 10. So perfect timing. That sounds cool. Shall I get into mine?
Yeah, of course.
I will. My pick this week is The Underground, a Sam and Fuzzy RPG. This is actually based on a webcomic that's been running for a long time that I used to read, but I haven't caught up with webcomics in a long time.
Yeah, you've subbed on most of them.
I'm pretty I've let them down. But what I used to read, it's a black and white, cartoony, very stylized, kind of funny adventure comic about Sam and Fuzzy. Fuzzy is like an anthropomorphic bear creature. Mm-hmm. And they go on adventures and there's all kinds of crazy monsters and things. It sort of started out as more gag-based and became more plot-based as it went on. And this is actually based in that world. It's developed by Damocles Thread Development. And, of course, the creator of the comic is Sam Logan. And all the art and everything like that is based on it. And what's also cool in the book is that it also comes with a little sort of mini encyclopedia of the comic, like a wiki of the comic. So if you're a fan of it, there's a lot of cool info in there. And it's other than that, I think I haven't seen any specifics on how it differs from most RPGs, but I'm assuming fairly standard RPG gameplay. But with the twist of this world, it comes with a bunch of characters you can play as, like unique races and weird creatures, vampires and stuff like that. And there's also some pre-built campaign stuff in there for you. It's $15 for the digital version, $25 if you want a physical book of it. But it looks fun, and maybe check it out. You might like the comic if you've never read it. Otherwise, it's just kind of a neat world that could be a cool thing.
Yeah, I've been noticing this. We're starting to see a slow trend from webcomics. I keep up with some of them. They're actually making board game versions. In particular, like for example, I keep up with by a comic written by Somer and drawn by an artist named Lar, in which they have one called Least I Can Do, and also one called Looking for Group. And I had for a while they made a game, Least I Can Do game, in which you try to roll dice and try to hit on male and women. And they're Looking for Group. They made a Pathfinder Looking for Group version of their game because it was based on WoW. But it sort of has departed a little bit more from that with their own story and very weird creatures, including a creature with hands for heads.
I like it. And of course, there's Penny Arcade had their own card game and Munchkin versions.
They have a lot of.
Yeah, they've got a handful of things.
So definitely, I think we're starting to reach the point when it's perfect for webcomics to have a big fan base to connect with these.
Perfect for Kickstarter, too.
Yeah. And many of these Kickstarter places, I'm sure this one, I haven't read this webcomic in particular, probably have huge worlds that are easy to expand on. So that probably helps a lot. And of course, I'm sure they'll be in there like a joke with someone actually having the book, and they'll be like, what are you reading?
I hope every game has a meta joke like that. But yeah, that's it. That's it. I like it. We like it.
So I mean, if you're a fan of the webcomic series, check it out. If you're not, maybe check out the webcomic and then check out the Kickstarter.
Yeah, the links to all these are in the video description below.
But I think for now, it's time for our topic of the week.
So a few weeks ago, it was announced, and we actually posted it on our site. Days of Wonder is publishing a strategy guide for their board game Memoir 44. So if you don't know, Memoir 44, it has a bunch of different expansions that go with it. It's a World War II military game.
Now, first,
Yeah.
the most important question of all, does it come with a special poster inside?
Now, it might. I don't remember. It might have some special stuff. But yeah, essentially it's a strategy book that has, tips and tactics and for the different maps and everything, what's the best play. And I just thought I'd never thought about that. I thought it was such an interesting idea. Of course, we play a lot of video games, and for years, those have had strategy guides.
This is what interesting when you first told me this.
Yeah.
Like, as you said, we're both big video game players as well. And back years ago, that used to be always, the Pokemon one came out, well, you gotta buy it, or this one with this game, because many games sort of needed it, the little tips and tricks. But as we've gotten older, a combination of us getting older, plus the internet,
That's the big one.
strategy guides aren't really needed as much anymore.
It's definitely now more of a collector's.
Right.
Like, only the really big games get them. And usually they're like $80 because they come with, like you said, they're like glossy and hardcover and posters and figures.
But now we're seeing board games get them. And when I first heard it, of course, because video games, when someone says that, I'm like, why would I get that? But then I think about a lot of board games, how maybe some things could be used. Like, well, first of all, it's almost as if D&D is literally all about strategy guide manuals. If you think about it.
D&D is a game based on strategy manuals.
That's like some games could use that.
Well, I think it's not nearly as, like with a video game, like you said, you go to a walkthrough site, you can find the walkthrough. Also, video games always have a very specific, a start and an end point. Usually, except, like obviously there's StarCraft and things like that, which could also have strategy guides. But I think for board games, it would be really, because there isn't really online or anywhere else other than stray forum posts that aren't organized well that you can talk about strategy really in depth.
However,
well,
speaking, because you mentioned StarCraft.
Yeah.
StarCraft, and these are probably more obvious, maybe a board game, or I should say LCG like Netrunner, have updates quite often. It'd be a little hard to make a printed version.
Well, that's true,
strategy.
but that's true for everything.
Yes, but however, if you made maybe a digital, like you paid $20 once and you got access to a digital version that they would update constantly, like, now this card is banned from tournaments, so avoid it, or something like that.
Well, of course they could just release like volume 2 of Netrunner, so like the last year of expansions are included in this volume, something like that. But I think even for any kind of board game, I would kind of like to just sit down and dig into some tips. Like when I was a kid with video games, if I wasn't playing a game, I was like, how can I be better at Smash Brothers?
Now, while a lot of this things interest me, overall, I still have to say, I don't think I'd buy them. Because for me, I don't know if I already want to put the extra, like if it comes to $80, like you said.
Well, that's another thing.
Right. For a lot of these games, for example, one, I want to find the strategies on my own. Two, like you said, paying overprice. Three, some of these games will come then like another $20 expansion, another $20 expansion, another $20. I'm already putting a lot of money towards it.
But I feel like usually, well, yeah, okay, I see what you're saying.
So like,
it's money.
I really need to see how expensive it is, and what is in it. Like, what can you give me that will really either I can use for a little bit that looks nice on my shelf. Posters, maybe somehow an exclusive card or something that I need more than just draw. Make sure to always draw a card. Make sure to always make this check for your opponent has played his land card this turn. I can't
honestly, for me, the biggest appeal of it is just the entertainment value of just reading about a game that I love. Because like I said, I really like that book that Ignacy Trzewiczek wrote, Board Games That Tell Stories, that I told you about, and people know about it. I've talked about it on the show. It was just really, there aren't a lot of places, I don't think, where people just write about board games because it's still such a young industry. There's video game magazines and
really
stuff.
Chess is a very young.
Okay, you know what I mean. Designer board games. This guy. So I would really like if there was for games that I really liked. There's a really interesting, all different combos for Legendary, or even like even just analysis of like the best paths of whatever it is.
Actually, I think you brought up that you didn't even say it.
Battlestar.
Like, what would I think be really cool for them to include?
Yeah.
It was sort of would be like, DVD has the extras behind the scenes. Like, what if there's a whole thing, how Arkham was created? I'm sure there are plenty of games that have interesting stories behind them.
Concept art.
Like, for example, one game I play, it's a small game. It's called Jaipur. I haven't played it with you yet, which I hope to soon. There are camel cards, but one camel card has a panda underneath it. It actually has this huge story behind it, which I'm not going to say now because I don't remember the exact details.
Good.
But, like, what if that had a guide, like, we put this in here because this happened.
Behind the scenes tidbits.
Right. Like, what if one for love letter, like the reason why we decided to make a Batman one, or how there's a wedding one you can get if you're actually getting married.
Well, now I think we're getting into almost a whole other subject, which is we just would like to read books about the making of games.
Well, I mean, my whole point is if there's interesting stories, that would be a great thing to include it with them. Like,
well, I agree. Yeah.
Not just strategy, just like.
But I think for strategy it would still be enough. I think for you it's not. But for a lot of people, I think they would.
It depends how much strategy. That's the thing.
Especially for games like Netrunner,
right,
that people are so intent on.
Like certain things, for example, Arkham Horror probably would be a great one if you had if you're playing against.
No,
in particular, if you did one for this
Arkham Horror, step 1, make sure you roll 5s and 6s.
Well, no, but I mean, what if they did, we suggest you have these guys in against if you're fighting Cthulhu, or for this one. Like, maybe they make they can include some interesting alternate play styles. For example, another one, a game we talk about, Legendary. What if they did, he used this combination for the fun, for the Civil War.
Every show, Legendary and Arkham Horror are the only 2 games we ever mention as examples.
Well, because
predictable.
In this situation, they both work because they're heavy thematic ones. Yeah. Those 2 drip in them, so they're good examples.
So we've talked about what we think about the books, but at the end of the day, this conversation is somewhat meaningless. Thanks for watching, because I don't think any companies are really going to follow suit. I don't think we're going to see any strategy guides.
Well, yeah,
I'm amazed we saw one.
What I think is most likely to happen, if it does, is that we're going to see digital versions.
Maybe.
It's cheaper for them because they don't have to print it. They could probably do a subscription service even, maybe. Well, I'm almost certain Fantasy Flight, if they do it, they would make a subscription service. It would be for all their games, and you pay.
Buy 10 pages at a time, and it'd be a chapter pack, literally. I think companies are already not, board game companies usually don't have that much money to throw around.
And another big reason is, even though it's disorganized, why should you pay someone to write something when you know people are going to do it free on the internet?
True, yeah, that's true, but I feel like, especially for board games, it's often not the best, the really good stuff. But you'll see. I support it. If any more companies do it, I think it'd be really cool. In fact, maybe we should check out the memoir book if we see it, just for curiosity's sake.
You've officially just given everyone Kickstarter ideas, and we'll be listing strategy guides for Kickstarter Pickstarters for the next 2 years.
I'll do it. If you want to let us know what you think, do you want strategy guides for board games or don't you? Or maybe you have a place that you found a good strategy guide on the internet, or even book form that we don't know about.
We did say we couldn't find one. Prove us wrong.
Prove us wrong. You could leave us a comment on our video below or send us an email. Our email address is rollforcrit@gmail.com.
Of course, those emails can become quite long. If you want to just send a nice little short message, there's always Twitter. You can follow us at @rollforcrit, or of course our personal Twitters, @DorkIryu,
@Quentz, then there's @Ivan Arhan and @Foamy89. And don't forget, there's a lot of great games we mentioned today. Netrunner, Game of Thrones, Smash Up, Pandemic.
Also, there's plenty of news we didn't even get to.
Plenty of news we didn't get to. You can get all that. Don't miss a thing. Our website, it's rollforcrit.com. Great prices, great deals. Holidays are coming up, and we're working on all kinds of really fun deals and promotions that we're going to give you. And in addition to that, we should announce there's not going to be a podcast a week from today,
correct,
a regular one, because all this week, in fact, just the day after you're watching this, starting on Wednesday, there is going to be the Board Game Geek Convention in Texas, which we will be attending, and we'll be posting videos all throughout of the fun things that we find there.
Yep. So if you're there, give us a shout out. Let's say hi.
Yeah, please give us a shout out, say hi, or both combined.
Oh yeah.
A hi out. That'll be fun. I think that's all our site news. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. I think that's it for now.
So keep in touch. I'm Jonathan Estes.
I'm Mo Keeler, and this is the Roll for Crit podcast.